The Spanish voiceover version of the English video does better than in the original. And that to me is incredible. 1,000 views a day to 20,000 views a day. And I personally don't have to do anything.
9 billion views on YouTube. How to get better on YouTube. After almost 3 years, hundreds of videos, many conferences, and more than 30 million views, Rob Wilson, content strategist and YouTuber in residence at Vid Iq, has been sharing some solid advice for creators in the platform. And today, he's with us, giving some valuable lessons he learned along the way. Hi Rob, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hello, Camila. Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. And I just want to say thank you to Unilingo as a partner in VidIQ and the wonderful things we've done together. Right now, actually, I'm working on an updated video on how to get 4,000 hours of watch time. So I've been filming this morning and now I'm in the editing process, essentially doing what I do every single day, which is creating content and educating people on, as you say, how to grow their channels on YouTube.
That's amazing. I mean, we hope to see that very soon. We are sharing a link in the description, so you guys can watch the newest VidIQ videos and the newest channel audits. Rob, you work as a journalist, as an editor, a lecturer, even a radio DJ. What took you into the YouTube sphere and working with video creators?
The interesting thing about many of the things that you described there is that a lot of those things I actually did as hobbies or unpaid. So I would contribute to a website, or I would volunteer at a hospital to do DJing work, or I'd be editing my own website. So I had all of these different creative outlets. But I think maybe a decade ago, the landscape was very different for creative people to get a professional career out of it. You'd even need to know the right people at a newspaper, or start at the very bottom doing things that you weren't necessarily that interested in, but it was your, I guess, door into the creative space, whatever it may be. And I think YouTube just provided me, along with millions of others, a creative outlet whereby you could broadcast your message and your passion to billions of people around the world, and there's pretty much zero barrier to entry. YouTube doesn't charge you anything. You can do it with any camera you have. And so ultimately, it's up to you, the individual, how well you make a success of YouTube. Everybody starts with 0 views and 0 subscribers. Nobody has an advantage to begin with. So ultimately, the pressure is on you, but at the same time, all of its success is through your own hard work.
It depends entirely on you making the decision to start.
A lot of people start YouTube for many different reasons. And I think for me to begin with, it was I just wanted to do something creatively. And it wasn't necessarily because I thought I was going to get monetized or have a huge audience. To be honest, it was probably a little bit self-indulgent to begin with. I had an interest in tech, so I wanted to make tech videos. So I think for the first 50 to 100 videos, and this is what I always recommend to creators, is you've got to fall in love with the content creation process before anything else. Because if you build an audience, you have to enjoy making the content for that audience in 6 months, 6 years, 600 videos. And I think after 50 to 100 videos, when I start to realize, yeah, maybe a few hundred people are watching these videos, the main thing is I absolutely love making video content. And that's what even if I was broadcasting to 1/10 of the people I do now, I think I would still do it because it's just so much fun.
It's a long journey, right?
Yeah, I think my first video on YouTube was in 2008. And then I started taking it more seriously as a hobby in 2012. And it wasn't up until probably 2016, 17 that I was actually starting to make enough of an income to start thinking I could maybe do something like this as a full-time career. And that's when VidIQ came in.
What is it like to, become a YouTuber in residence?
So let's first of all look at that title. When I first joined VidIQ, my boss Rob wanted me to give myself a title, and I thought content strategist seemed to be the right type of thing because I'd be working on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and all of the sort of I've suddenly realized that the reason VidIQ brought me on board was to have bring on a creator's aspect of the journey. YouTube is awesome at bringing out tools to help creators, but until I arrived, they didn't necessarily have somebody who used the tools every single day and understood the YouTube journey. And at that point, I suddenly realized that I'm just like every creator I'm trying to educate. I'm a YouTuber, essentially. And so that's where the YouTuber in residence type of title came in, that I'm working for this company, but at the same time, I'm helping our audience. And that's what my primary role there. And then, but ever since I started working for VidIQ, it doesn't feel as if I've actually worked a day in my life, because I do what I love every single day. I make videos for a living, and I used to do that for free and not get paid anything, and I still love it. So yeah, being able to, I guess, turn my hobby and my passion into a career and a dream has been amazing. And I must thank Rob, for my boss, for taking a chance on me. And so far, the relationship has gone very well, and it's now broadened into me speaking Spanish as well. I didn't even know I could do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I've been editing some of your clips from the translated channel, and it's so cool to get to compare. And oh man, this is another version of Rob.
Yeah, I remember when Farbod wanted me to do like an introduction video, and he gave me like one line of Spanish because I wanted to say something in Spanish, and I did it, and he couldn't stop laughing. So it was clear to me that I cannot do the Spanish voiceover myself. And now it sounds like I'm going to be speaking Russian very soon as well. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to trying a bit of Russian in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's coming soon. The good thing about the platform is that it enables you to be creative in a lot of ways. There's a ton of opportunities right around the corner.
Yeah. I would say at this point, with over 2 billion users now on YouTube, there is literally an audience for everything. I mean, we'll probably talk about this in a bit more detail later, but I do channel audits every single week, and the diversity of channels we see is incredible. So as long as your interest falls within the guidelines and the advertiser-friendly content that's allowed on YouTube, then yeah, I think anybody could start today and be earning money from it very soon. I mean, a very recent example, a channel called Dad, How Do I? And their channel is about teaching young adults things that they may not be too embarrassed to ask somebody, or they maybe didn't have that father figure in their life, like ironing a shirt, changing a tire, fixing a shelf. And this channel's gone viral in the last couple of days, actually. I think they started on April the 1st. And today, what are we on, May the 22nd, they've now got 1.5 million subscribers. So they went from nothing to a huge channel with so much potential in 6 weeks. And that is the power of YouTube.
And we were talking about tutorials, right?
Yeah, tutorials. And this is, I mean, there's many tutorials on YouTube that have existed for this type of thing, like how to change a tire, unblock a toilet. That's not new stuff, but the way the creator has pitched it to the audience and created like this shared connection and relationship, that the human element of this is that this creator didn't have a father figure in their life when they were growing up. And so now he's sharing the struggles that he went through with an audience that's really resonating with it. And of course, the viral exposure outside of YouTube has really helped, but that's what can happen on YouTube. And it's fantastic to see. It's one of those positive feel-good stories as well. We see a lot of controversy on YouTube a lot of the time, but this is one of the moments where YouTube is working for good, and I love to see that. Yeah. I have said often that we as YouTube educators can tell you how to get higher click-through rate and more watch time and so on and so forth, and creators can watch as many videos as they want. But I think to begin with, nothing beats experience, and that is you just getting out a camera, pressing record, uploading some videos and seeing what happens. If you have that experience of uploading content and making thumbnails and so on, when you see when you have an idea that you really want to throw yourself into, then at least you already have that previous knowledge of how to make the video or upload it to YouTube, which is going to give you a better chance of creating better content. Once you start to have maybe, I don't know, 50 videos on your channel and 100 subscribers, you start to get that, you have a growing sample size of data. And YouTube tells us themselves that they will share your content more on YouTube if you have high click-through rate and more watch time. So generally speaking, our advice is to work on your thumbnails. We had this issue with Vid Iq for about a year, I'd say. I think coming into 2018, our click-through rate was around about 2 to 3%. So we decided that wasn't good enough, and we made a concerted effort to increase click-through rate. It went from between 2 and 3% to 5 and 6% by the end of the year. So that doesn't sound much, but when you look at the number of views that you're getting, we increased monthly views by 200, 300%. And then in 2019, it went ballistic and we were getting millions of views a month as opposed to hundreds of thousands of views. So I think thumbnails, in a sense, a lot of people create the content. They're really excited to put that content on YouTube, but they just maybe don't spend enough time at the end of the process thinking, how am I going to pitch this video to an audience with a thumbnail that somebody's going to see for 1 or 2 seconds? The potential viewer needs to get the thumbnail like in an instant. They need to understand what they're getting into, and so it has to be less complicated, less text. Those are like the general pieces of advice we give for thumbnails. Looking at the audience retention, seeing if your intro is too long and people are dropping out there, or like if people just aren't staying on the content for long enough. These are all things that YouTube is going to tell you in those analytics, and if you pay attention to them and then maybe make one tweak, whatever it is, like a shorter intro, or sometimes making the video shorter is actually better. And I know that sounds counterproductive to watch time, but let's say you have a 10-minute video and people watch it for 2 minutes, then they've probably abandoned your video and abandoned YouTube. However, if you have a 3-minute video and people watch it for 2 minutes, you're getting the same amount of watch time, but it's more likely that people are staying on YouTube to watch more of your content or content on YouTube in general. So there are many ways to get watch time. A lot of our most popular videos are 2 or 3 minutes long because they're tutorials, and they get to the top of the search rankings because they provide real value. As YouTube tells us, it's click-through rate and watch time, which are the most important metrics. And then everything else you can work on here and there, but always going back to those 2 central metrics and trying to improve them as much as possible.
Everybody's trying to get better. I mean, and it's a question of experimenting with all the things that are into your video and out of your video, your metadata, the way you are responding to comments. Actually, for a lot of people, it's very important to get track of it and start replying to the comments and, creating a real sense of community around the channel.
When you are first starting your channel and you're getting 1 or 2 comments, you should be treating them almost like family. So reading the comment, liking it, giving them a response if there's something that they something of value there. Also asking your audience questions in the comments and in the videos to increase engagement. And you spoke a little earlier as well about always experimenting. To begin with, obviously you want to be experimenting as much as possible. Follow the guidance and the instruction that educators may offer you, but at the same time, don't treat it as the hard and fast rules that you must follow. Sometimes it's better to know the rules and then break them, because you create something completely new and unique on YouTube that an audience can't get anywhere else. And that's the type of thing that audiences absolutely love.
There are many ways to experiment with those resources. I mean, there's also engaging with more audiences by translating your content, as we do actually. Speaking of that, how do you feel to watch yourself talking in Spanish?
Okay, so when Farbod first approached me, I think this was at Vid Summit in, when would it have been, 2018, I think. I was a little skeptical about how this was going to go. I didn't know how well the translations were going to be. I didn't know whether there would be an audience in a different language, or whether they would appreciate clearly a voiceover or dubbed content. So it took a bit of time to win me over. And when the channel first went live, I was astonished at how good the voiceovers are. I actually think I sound better in Spanish because I think it's a professional person doing the voiceovers as opposed to me in terms of, I don't necessarily treat myself as a professional voiceover artist. Like I wear many different hats and do many different things, but yeah, I sound damn good in Spanish. I'm not going to lie. And the channel Vid Iq en Español started off relatively slowly, and we were getting maybe like a couple of thousand views a day, which was fine. And I think over 2019, there was just a very slow growth. But all of a sudden, and I think this is because a couple of reasons. First of all, we know the content works in English, and so we assume that it would eventually work in Spanish. And it's just that classic reasoning of, if you give an audience consistent and valuable content for an extended period of time, YouTube will eventually start to recognize that as good content and then share it to a wider audience. So I think that eventually started happening. But I think also what I realized is that, I think what Unilingo's aim is to take these really saturated English-speaking genres and topics and take them into markets where there is less competition. So I don't know exactly how many Spanish-speaking YouTube educators there are, but I assume it's considerably less than there are English-speaking YouTube educators. And once we establish ourselves, I think in the last 5 months, the Spanish channel has absolutely exploded. I think we've gone from... Bear with me, I'm going to look at the analytics here because I really want to
you got it there.
check this. Yeah, so I'm checking the analytics now on Vid Iq en Español. So if we go back to, let's say, I'm going to go back to this time last year, we were doing 1,300 views a day. Then in November, 6 months later, we were doing 1,200 views a day. So, things were really static. But then in February of this year, we went up to 5,500 views a day. And now, let's see, yesterday on the channel, we did 20,000 views. So we've increased the channel by about 2,000% in the last 12 months. And every time we create new content on the Spanish channel, we see like a spike. We say that when channels are going up and to the right, then there's a lot of growth and it's doing really well. And the Spanish channel now is doing so well in that sometimes the Spanish voiceover version of the English video does better than in the original. And that to me is incredible. And I think it's because maybe in the English speaking YouTube educational world, we might be like 2 or 3 in the list. But I think in Spanish speaking world, who knows, maybe we might be number 1 now or number 2, because our content is so good and there's less competition. So that is really the value for channels who have a global reach and the content is multilingual. That's why I recommend getting in touch with Unilingo and maybe seeing what they can do for your channel. I know that sounded like a little bit of a plug there, but just going through the analytics, it's it's incredible. Yeah. We've gone from 1,000 views a day to 20,000 views a day. And I personally don't have to do anything. And I make the video content, I tell your team what to do, and then you take care of everything. And to have that extra reach is unbelievable.
Yeah. Do you think this is going to happen for a lot of new channels? I mean, not especially in YouTube education, but in other topics.
I believe so. I believe that if the content is as valuable in English as it is in Spanish, Russian, French, or whatever language you want to translate it into, and you have the resources to do it, then I think this is definitely something worth doing. I know that Unilingo has done other channels such as Veritasium that's been very successful as well. And I think Farbod and I did test a couple of videos where we just used captions. And so I just spoke in English. And yeah, the response was not well received. I think if anyone was to ask me, should I make my content in a second language or my native language, I would tend to say your native language, because first of all, you're going to be a lot more confident speaking in that language. And the English speakers may find it can go one of two ways. They either really appreciate like the different tone and intonation you have when you're speaking a second language, or they find it frustrating, or in some cases they find it almost of comedic value. I mean, I guess PewDiePie is a good example of this, in that he has a slightly different way he speaks English, and it kind of endears him to his audience. But I'm sure he could start a Swedish channel tomorrow and be one of the dominant creators in that language as well.
Yeah, if it's characteristic instead of confusing, that's gonna sound well.
Yeah, if people are really confident with the language, but if you're like you're maybe a little unsure of yourself and like you're still trying to broadcast in that second language, it can become, I guess, a barrier or an obstacle, something that's holding you back.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge.
Yeah. But at the same time, I would always applaud and appreciate and respect people who can speak a second language, because the education system in the UK is terrible, and hardly any of us come out of secondary school education being able to speak any other languages.
Are you studying a new language? Do you have plans for it?
The one language that I've actually always wanted to try and learn is sign language. I guess I find it so expressive and visual. And during the lockdown for many people, my girlfriend and I have actually started doing a couple of sign language lessons. The problem is, I think, always with learning a second language is how often are you going to use it, and you really have to. It's like almost like muscle memory. You have to keep using it in order to maintain it. And I just don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that with sign language or anything. But yeah, who knows? If somebody wants me to learn a new language and maybe do a brand new channel, let me know. And who knows? In 20 years, I might be confident enough to do it.
That would be great. Rob, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from working with different content creators with, very diverse backgrounds?
That there is an audience for everybody on YouTube. To give you some random examples of, and what we do on these channel audits is we do a live stream every Tuesday, and anybody can submit their channel. Doesn't matter if the channel has 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. We'll take a look at it and we'll offer our constructive feedback. So we've seen channels that are based around stop motion animation, Lego table tennis. I mean, that sounds like a niche in itself, but there's thousands of people watching that content. We have an ASMR channel who makes food that looks like items, so that it looks as if they're eating iPhones or they're eating champagne bottles. And that channel's now got over 50,000 subscribers and millions of views. So sometimes you'll look at these channels and think, I don't know where the audience is there. But remember, there are over 2 billion people on YouTube now. And there is a audience for everything on YouTube, and probably the biggest mistake or hurdle that many creators have to tackle are their thumbnails, and they just don't spend enough time on them, I think. And I was the same. I came onto YouTube because it's a video content platform, so I wanted to make videos. But I think the thumbnail, especially, to get somebody to come into your content is just as important.
I'm gonna ask you one of the biggest questions that is out there.
Okay, I'm preparing myself.
You gotta prepare yourself. PewDiePie versus T-Series. What's the final take?
Okay, so this is my final take, and I guess this is still open for discussion, but it feels to me like this was a story about the old YouTube and how it used to work versus what YouTube is going to become more and more of in the future. PewDiePie represents the success of an individual creator, somebody who started playing games for fun and turned their channel into a business and 100 million subscribers. T-Series is about an established Bollywood music movie label that already has, I guess, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of customers who realizes the value of YouTube and starts pushing their content out onto YouTube as a way to distribute their platform. Funnily enough, T-Series, I think, actually joined YouTube before PewDiePie, but I think they started to take YouTube more seriously 3 or 4 years ago. Most people are going to support the individual creator because he's a relatable person and they've seen him grown up on the platform, whereas you may see T-Series as this kind of faceless corporation that has unlimited resources to get people to watch their content. But I guess if you think about it, all of the artists on the T-Series label, I guess, are people who are just like PewDiePie, but PewDiePie has decided to stay independent with his audience. And I don't think there is a right or wrong answer here. This is just I guess the internet growing up in one sense as well, in that not only does PewDiePie represent an older form of YouTube where maybe more risque and controversial content was more acceptable on the platform. He's certainly been in trouble in the past, whereas I guess the larger corporations are more aware and more responsible with how they need to follow guidelines and make sure that the content is appropriate for all audiences, for advertisers. So I think the platform is going to continue to mature. And I think as long as YouTube continues to grow as a platform, then there are room for both sides. I guess I kind of fall in the middle of this because I used to be an individual video creator who built up their channel by itself, and then a company approached me because they knew of my experience and skills on the platform, and now I guess I kind of represent a company on YouTube. So I can tell you one thing: the company pays a lot more than what YouTube does for advertising. So I think obviously, if people are going to want to turn this into a career and a business, then sometimes they're going to, I guess, switch sides on this. But I don't know if that's a definitive answer, Camilo. It's just how YouTube is developing, and
it's not like the independent creator is going to disappear tomorrow or something like that. It's...
Even with like competitors in our space, I always say we shouldn't be battling against each other. I mean, yes, I guess we are trying to get watch time from viewers, but right now I think YouTube is big enough for everybody, and I think coexisting rather than creating conflicts on the platform is something that's going to benefit everybody.
What new projects are coming from the VidIQ team?
Okay, so VidIQ has been grown a lot in the last 12 months. The things that I can tell you that we've been working on is at the beginning of this year, we launched the YouTube Academy, the Vid Iq Academy, which is a learning platform off of YouTube. We thought that we like doing these 5-10 minute videos, which fit into the YouTube space. But for those who are really serious about YouTube, then you're probably wanting these deep dives where we go into something for hours. And these are the videos where we don't have to worry necessarily about watch time or audience retention. We're appealing to a very specific audience who wants to get the utmost value from our content. So the Vid Iq Academy is now available, and it's actually available to free users as well. I think right now, we're going to be, of the courses we have, which I think is around 10 now, we'll make one of our paid courses free every single month. And right now, the How to Start Your YouTube Channel in 30 Days is our free course. And we're going to be doing a lot more courses there. We're reaching out to other educators to see if they want to contribute to it. The mobile app is available now. So if you go onto Android and iOS and search for VidIQ, you can download it. Plenty of new tools coming up as well. I don't want to really reveal any of them right now because they're kind of under wraps, but a very recent example was the thumbnail preview tool, where we can show people how your video would actually look on YouTube before you even publish it. So you can see how the thumbnail would compare against videos at the top of the search rankings to see if they do look good and compare quite well. We've been analyzing videos on the platform for years now. We have all of this information, anonymized, of course, but we want to see how we can take this data and then give some of it back to the creators in a useful way, such as, for example, finding out like which are the most popular beauty channels in the last month and what keywords have they been using to help them with growth. That's the type of thing that we would like to offer our users in a better way that we do now. So lots of things on the horizon, and I'm hoping that by the end of the year, you're going to see a lot more stuff coming out from
Vid
Iq.
The last one, if you want to optimize, that's going to be crazy good reception.
Yeah,
right?
we have the data. We have the data. We just need to figure out how to use it and present it to the users in a way that they're going to find valuable. And that's the challenge right now.
I love the thumbnail one.
Yeah, and that was one of our suggestions, because we have like 3 or 4 creators in the team. And we were thinking, what would be a really cool tool is if we could see what our video would look like before we even publish it. And it took a couple of months to develop, but we think we've got it there now. So yeah, I think it's called the thumbnail preview tool. Whenever you upload a video or go to the edit page of a video with VidIQ installed, you should see that button. So click it and check it out, see what it looks like for your content.
That's great. Awesome. We're going to share a link in the description.
Sweet, thank you very much. And I just want to repeat again, thank you to Farboard and the entire Unilingo team for transforming an idea 18 months ago into, I think, like 40,000 subscribers now and growing fast. I wouldn't be surprised if VidIQ in Espanol reaches 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year and already millions of views. So yeah, I just want to say again, thank you for everything you do. You're turning me into a Spanish speaking legend. I just hope nobody comes up to me and asks me for an autograph in Spanish, because I'm not going to be sure what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very
I
much.
could do it.
Awesome.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. I think that's our time now, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And everybody, as I always say, time is the most important currency on YouTube. And you've just spent however long listening to this podcast. We hope you found it valuable. Remember that when you're sharing time with your audience, make it as valuable as possible for them.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
And that's our time, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.